Bruce.
Good afternoon. So it's me again. So I'm quite not sure that you have eaten a lot, but because I'm almost falling to sleep. So I decided to skip the presentation and to sing a song for you. No, I'm kidding. No, I cannot allow doing that. I just want to wake you up. Anyway, so it's only, it's a very quick introduction on Huawei's NFVI solution. So I think it's very, when you look at the picture, it's very straightforward. What's the purpose? So NFVI is a very, very strong, growing, and profitable solution for carrier business, particularly. So there were two things. It's a virtualized and programmable telecom operator is very critical for, the growing business. And of course, for the cloud platform, we need to make sure that if we are ready to expand. Okay, so this is the idea about how we can put IT and CT infrastructure together. And we know that there are challenges. Even though there are challenges, we still need to consider about a couple of points, like time to market, cost saving, and try to make sure that the innovation could be delivered. And the last thing is agile, smart. So how we can do this is a very interesting part to look at the architecture. When you look at this, you can see the core. So Fusion Sphere, Openstack. This is what I mentioned to you. It's a very, very function-specified Openstack version. And when you look at that, around the native stack version, there were lots of things which we trying to improve, such as performance improvement, disaster recovery and backup recovery, and cost support. So among this, for the whole things, right now, it should be a very effective way to choose the open platform and how we can work together, not only in the open environment, but also we need to consider the legacy environment. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is quite critical for all of us to understand that this is what might be the good platform to choose. OpenStack is, of course, is the one which I described earlier this morning, and it's about the cloud-centric IT and CT integrate environment. This one is a very good example for how we are running at this moment. It's very quick introduction on our foundation, the presentation, and the other one is what is doing by we so-called a tier one operator. You can look at that in Vodafone, in China Mobile, in the major three China mobile operator, what they are doing now. Are they doing all the things? No, it is not. It is not. The reason why they are doing not all the things because there are some very specified requirements. For example, performance is needed to cannot be compromised. So we need to seriously and carefully consider about how we choose which application is running. This is the ecosystem which I mentioned to all you guys earlier this morning, but a little more detail. All the application, Open Lab, again, this is what I mentioned earlier this morning for the 5 places. which we contribute, we create, we build to make sure that all the application being certified. And you look at that at the bottom. Look at that here. We are now providing the certified program for the cloud certification, all the way from compatible to validated and developed, being certified in the Open Lab. Mainly is to support all of the certification. Right now, when you look at that, we have more than 100 projects is now waiting to get certified globally, which is very good because it's just running for, I think, just a year. Okay, we got this progress, which is very good. The second one is for the previous two sessions we mentioned about open. Here we are talking about the carrier grade. What does it mean, carrier grade? Open is not enough. Like I mentioned, open is just one of the consideration points, but how we can meet, we called carrier grade platform. We need to make sure that the performance should be maintained or being accelerated. Second one, we need to make sure high availability is in place, like the QoS of the bandwidth, like the VM, HA, and migration. And the other one is for the full redundancy, and there is no single point of failure. The third one is security. So as long as we mention about this is a carrier-grade business operation platform, we need to consider about these three. Missing any one of them, no, you cannot call it carrier grade because in carrier business, all critical, most likely. The other point is about operation management. Besides these three characteristics, which I mentioned, performance, availability, security, one of the key elements to make sure that all the operation could be well managed is about the management framework. So you can imagine that. Existing, you got lots of virtualized environment is running. You cannot just, like I mentioned earlier this morning, you cannot just throw it away. You need to manage that. But managing in which way? There is one idea. There is one idea. When you look at this, in the, no, we need to get back. Here, when we look at the resource pool, is it possible to get your IT resources and your existing CT resources to put together as a single big one? I remember earlier this morning there was a session called that it's a big data or a big data lake, right? It's a lake. Why not sea? Why not ocean? But no, lake is more reasonable. If it is too big, it is really hard to make sure that, do you remember the previous slide? The quality of services. It is really hard to maintain the quality of services as long as you put every resource as a single resource pool. So after my talking about this, we need to think about the other point, the data center location. Theoretically, in the cloud environment, you don't really need to concern about the physical location of your data center, right? Theoretically. But is that right? You still need to concern about your physical data center location and how many data center locations you have, and furthermore, is those data centers are dependent. If so, virtualization is not far enough. We need to consider about multiple data centers, how we can really manage within one management framework. This is one thing which not really happening in the enterprise customer. For example, some manufacturing company. It's a manufacturing foundry, the manufacturing factory, one process line within within the big process room. So it's one, physical, we have one. So it could be predictable, it could be measurable, it could be handled within one physical location. So not so worried about that. But as long as we look at the multiple data center, it doesn't matter about big or small. We can discuss later about the 5G coming. So we've got to prepare this moment in case you have a data center somewhere else and you want to leverage the resources. How you can do that? How you can do that? So but interesting thing is, this is the nature of OpenStack environment. We're already thinking about, okay, how we can manage the multiple data center on the different locations and communicate seamlessly. So this is the idea about how we can really managing multiple data center with multi-talent and running maybe is the same application. So not only managing, but we need to make sure that the overall management effort could be optimized and efficient. I don't want to make the wrong expectation, say there is no effort. I would say it will take efforts. It will take efforts because there was a communication which is very good. Recently, I accidentally looked at the article talking about doing the digital transformation or the technology cloud transformation. You guess what? Process and organization versus technology. What's the ratio? Guess. Very interesting. And I heard some gentlemen from the audience saying that last week in Amsterdam there was a conference. There was a CTO has a speech talking about the same topic. Of course, the ratio is different. My article, the article which I was reading, the ratio is 80-20. Guess what? What is 80? Organization and process. 20, technology. Technology is so easy. No, I cannot say, no, don't put it this way. Technology is not easy, but it is, you can see, you can feel, you can touch, you can manipulate them. But it comes to a situation like, for example, in the past, a call center is really reactively to get the work order and to do works. Right now, if we adopt the cloud idea, self-services, you can imagine that there's someone sit out there, you don't know where, doing services on themselves and have some problem. And he raised the issue, just call you, and you need to solve that. It's different. So can the original process deal with that? No, you can't. We need to change the process. As long as we change the process, it means that they might have some organization change. Organization, I'm not saying, it's not very good wording. I'm not saying you are fired. But you will need another professionalism. You will not have skill set. For example, in the past, there was someone sitting in the data center room only knowing network switch. All of a sudden, they need to know virtualization, they need to know all the management tool, the IT stuff. IT stuff, which I don't really care, but you need to care now. So a very interesting topic, which I was reading the same topic addressed from HR, and the technical guy. But they raise the same point. So which I mentioned about the optimize and efficiency, not really address about the technology maturity because it is mature. But the challenging is not technology itself. It's about the organization and process. Anyway, it will be a bigger topic to address. I don't want to talk too much on this, but keep in mind, if we're moving into moving into the stage, it's not avoidable. Future evolution, 5G. So I believe that you all heard about 5G, what's the magic, what might be the evolution, and what might be the magic number. But what I want to address here is about the data center itself. Why we need data center? Why we need data center? Because there are computing power, there are storage capacity, there are connectivity in the data center, right? But just in case, the computing power moving away from the core data center to somewhere else, for example, to your mobile device, the IoT device, like an automated car. Where is the data center? The moving car is collecting data. And in the traditional way, we put all the data all the way to the center solution, and do the calculation and do the analysis, and then store in the center, and then push back to somewhere else, the end result. You know, when the data received by the car crashed. It's too long. It takes too long. So it means that somewhat we need to empower the data center somewhere really near the data and need computing. It doesn't really matter about your mobile. Can you imagine that 3 years later, do you really have mobile phone on your hand? I remember one session earlier this morning. Per people is a device. No, it's a movie, but I remember I see the movie. But anyway, let's forget about the movie. For this slide, I would like to share with you is we need to consider about not only here in the central data center, but thinking about how's the edge, how's the access device. In case they have the access power, how we can really managing the data layer by layer. Okay, this is one thing we need to consider on this. And the ICT converged unified architecture, which I mentioned earlier, is a challenging, but there must be somewhere we can start with, right? Container technology is the one. I'm not saying to totally replace the traditional developing environment, but think about if there was something really can as a grouping, just divided your application into a group. Can we really do that? Yes, we can. And fortunately, we got lots of resources. So you look at the architecture, it's very straightforward. This is what you have right now. Maybe not really need to purchase. Now, sales guy don't want to listen to this, but it is. It is true, right? Try to get whatever you have, try to utilize them to make a small and beautiful part in the different site to make it run. So this is the architecture which we are providing to support the customer which previously listed, the architecture for the convergence unified architecture. And this is the other one for the future one of mass deployment and the operation platform for the intelligent stuff. Now, it will be another bigger topic, but this is for future evolution. Think about that, like the example which I shared with you, the no-man driving car. how you can manage that, how you want to stop, can you really stop him by yourself or by the car itself, and so on forth. Just thinking about that. Those different data center don't really consider about it's a real big data center. Get back to the two page ahead. It might be a small device, might be yourself. So here is the global implementation till now. By this quarter, we got about almost 250 to be delivered. So it is quite mature. It is not like a lab. No, it is not. We are running. So for those customers which have been listed, I have been in Mexico in person, in Thailand, of course in China, also in Switzerland. So it is a global deployment at this moment. It's not in the lab. Three things I would like to be the closing. An FAI architecture is not only for the carrier grade performance, security, availability, and evolutionary. So we can look at in the future, the 5G is coming. We need to prepare for this within a really open environment for scale out and scale up. Thank you.